If you're running ads and growing your business through online marketing, you're already familiar with the amount of leverage and upside that AI can provide you and your business. So today, we're going to break down our favorite AI tools that we're using for our own companies and inside of our clients' businesses, and we'll show you how to apply them to your marketing and sales processes. So if you're new to the channel, welcome in. All we do is talk about how to use online marketing in order to help clinics, healthcare clinics and wellness clinics specifically, reach $200,000 or more per month. And we don't make that as an income claim. We have clients that do as high as $2 million a month. And so we like to share the lessons that we learn from working with those large clients and bring them back to you here on this channel so that you can ultimately take the lessons, apply them to your own business, and hopefully reach the record revenues that you're dreaming of, okay? So I don't think that you're gonna reach that by just luck. So definitely, if you watch this video, make sure that you execute. So if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. We're gonna be talking all about AI today and how to use it inside of your business. So right now, we're gonna cover our favorite AI tools. Our first is the obvious, which is ChatGPT, okay? You've heard of this one. The ones I'm gonna talk about later, you may have not heard of though, and I want you to apply those to your business. So Chat is good at pretty much everything general, okay? I like Chat because it basically is extremely user-friendly. I have it such on my phone actually that if I hold the side button on my iPhone, it just opens ChatGPT, so it's very efficient like that, okay? So I like using that just for general inquiries, okay? It's also really good for deep research. Okay, it's also pretty good at image creation. And you can also edit the images right inside the chat window. A lot of people don't know that actually. So if you create an image on Chat and then you ask it, you basically click on the image once it generates, then you can go up to the top right and there's a little tool where you can actually highlight areas of the photo that you just generated and then give it another prompt and tell it to change something, right? So for example, if you had maybe like a photo of you and your significant other, but in the background there was this weird guy just kind of lingering in the back, you could basically take that photo, put it in Chat, just highlight the guy in the back and say, remove this guy, and it'll do it like really well. Okay, so Chat is pretty much good for all things. My next favorite is Claude. Now, Claude is actually made by a company called Anthropic, okay? And what I love Claude for is copywriting. Okay, we basically use Claude for all copywriting. Our business, making scripts for clients, making scripts for ourselves. Claude is our go-to. The nice thing about Claude too is you can upload a lot of context. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Is that you can give Claude a ton of different files, whether that be video files or typically we'll upload PDF files, okay? And then Claude can then access all of that information so that ultimately it kind of creates its own brain. And you can do that with Chat as well, but I've noticed that it limits you much more than Claude, okay? So Claude, you can upload a lot of context, which is one of the reasons why Claude is super good at the copywriting portion. And so above all, I would say that Claude typically produces the best, we'll call it wording, meaning that it seems to be the most like reliable in terms of like proper marketing language, whether that's organic posts, paid ads, YouTube scripts. Claude, again, is the go-to for that. And then what I like to do in Claude is we make projects, okay? And then those projects are kind of housing all of our documents. So these are all different like PDFs, okay? All these documents. And then what we're doing is when we basically will go into a project, then we'll go right to the relevant project, whether that's a client project or our project, and then we can take a lot of the context and then help us produce, again, copy, scripts, everything in between. Okay, my third favorite, or the one that we use a lot, is Manus. Okay, not a lot of people know about Manus, Manus.ai. It's basically Chat without guardrails. Okay? That basically means that if you notice like Chat, it's very agreeable with you, okay? It naturally wants to like appease you, okay? Manus is like, it's much more direct. Consider it like a mentor who doesn't, it thinks for itself, but it's gonna go outside the boundaries and not kind of stay within your field of view as Chat does. And Manus is a lesser known LLM. Okay, not a lot of people know about Manus. It's interesting when you use Manus, it's kind of like, it's very like robotic in the sense, like it creates like a different window and then it's going to do its own thing and it's like telling you what it's doing and it's showing you the code. It's actually a pretty fun AI to use. So sometimes what we like to do is we'll have Claude make some copy or some scripts, but then we'll actually go back into Manus and then we might actually have Manus rewrite the scripts and see what comes out of that, okay? Now next up is a program number 4, which is N8N, okay? N8N is basically an AI agent creator. So if you think about it, you have all these AIs, okay? You have your chat, you have Claude, you have Manus, just the ones we've talked about so far, right? And all these are good at different things. And so what N8N does is you basically create an agent that then can go out and execute tasks, but it can reference all of the large language models within. So like maybe it's doing a copywriting part of the task and it's referencing Claude. Okay, maybe it's doing some research part and it's referencing ChatGPT for research. So to be able to basically access all of your AIs, and then if you combine that with the projects that you just created, now all of a sudden you have the AI agent accessing very contextually relevant documents within all these AIs so that it can create literally the most favorable outcome on the task because of its ability to access all of the relevant AIs, okay? So that is an AI agent creator. Number 5 is a classic, which is Zapier, sometimes called Zapier. Not really sure which one it is, to be honest with you. But basically, this is an automation tool. This one is easier to get started with than like an N8N, but basically the way it works is on triggers, okay? So like let's say you have a workflow and you have maybe you have like an EHR or something, and all of a sudden you like update a patient record or a contact record, okay? Then you can basically have Zapier look for that trigger, an updated record, and then you could push it to like an Excel sheet. You could push it into like any sort of other tracking that you're using. You could push it into like an email list, right? So you have like this trigger, and then the system looks for the trigger, and once the trigger occurs, then it proceeds to do the subsequent tasks, okay, no matter how many there are, okay? Now our last favorite is one called FAL, or FAL. Not really sure again what it is, FAL.AI. Okay, this is a network of LLMs. So basically, if you go on FAL, you can access chat, you can access Claude, you can access my favorite, which is one called Banana. This is a Google product, okay? And all these other ones. I mean, there's literally hundreds and more. But basically, it's a network of LLMs. And the way it works is that you create an account, and then you upload basically some dollars, let's say $100 in credit. And then you can then search up any of these models that are housed on this website. Like let's say you go to Banana here, and then once you're in Nano, what you can do is you can do image creation. Okay? And basically you can do it for anywhere, depending on the day. It's either between, right now of this recording, it's usually between 7 cents and 15 cents an image, okay? And so basically what we have to do then is you have to use your credits to buy images. So you can use text to image, you can do image to image, that kind of stuff, okay? So FAL is cool because you can access all of these without having subscriptions to them, and then you would just pay like a small fee every time it's used, like quite literally like cents on the dollar, depending on which one you're doing, right? So it's a good way to access a bunch of them, and it's extremely cost effective. And so now that we've talked about our favorite tools, now we want to actually dig deep into how to apply them to marketing, sales, and strategy. Okay, so marketing, we've talked about as we kind of went today, but copywriting and scripts. Okay, so copywriting and scripts are very important to use with all these AIs. Image creation, graphics, okay? Ideation, which is a little bit more strategy, of concept. So for each one of your campaigns, you have concepts, right? So those are probably my 3 favorite ways to use, okay? And then also just general, final one, market research. Most of you guys watching this are not doing enough market research, and as a result, your copy is not as good as it could be because you think you know the market, but you don't at the deepest level. So market research, super important. Next up is sales. How do you apply these to sales? Well, there's a couple different ways, okay? You can do this for phone calls. You can do this for conversions. Those are my 2 favorite ways, okay? So basically, if you have a call center, you obviously do not have time to field and listen to everyone's calls, especially if you're spending a lot of money on ads, like $100 grand a month or more. Like, you're getting a lot of calls, and your team's making a lot of calls, and there's no possible way you're gonna be able to go through all of those individual conversations, okay? So what you can do is you can create an LLM using, again, one of the LLMs, so what, Chat or Claude or anything that we talked about so far. You can create your own LLM, so it's like a custom. So Chat calls it like a custom GPT, for example, okay? And then what you can do is you can feed it the script that you want your team to follow, okay? And then from there, you can basically get the large language model to then dump all the call recordings using some sort of call recording software, have it go into the model, and then spit out what was done well on the call, what was done wrong on the call, how well did they follow the script, what objections did they run into, how did they handle the objections. And now all of a sudden, you can basically get all your calls sorted, segmented, and then ultimately sent to you so that you can just review the important ones, and then you can look for who on your team might need some additional help, okay? So by allowing, see, the large language model can understand like what's optimal, right? And then all you do is you feed in the calls and it tells you if the call was optimal or not, okay? Same idea with your conversions. So if you have someone in the office, you basically just have them record their call, or their basically their session or their call. If it's telehealth, it's a call. If it's in person, it's gonna be a session. Record the session when they're actually gonna do the conversion with the prospect, and then take that recording, again, put it into a model, and then have it say if it was optimal or not, right? So again, that's like, you could do a whole training on that itself, but basically what you're doing is you're using this custom model to provide real-time feedback. Okay, so like if you have, again, like 1,000 calls that are being made a day, and then every day you just get a report that says, here's how many calls were made, here's who made the calls, and here are the outcomes of the calls. Every call that's listed in green is good. Every call in red, you should review and talk to the person about how to improve on these things. Go. Think how much more efficient that makes your sales management, okay? So that was my favorite way to do that. And the last is strategy. So strategy with these models, just remember, context is everything. The more you give it, the more it gives back to you, okay? So when you have strategy, I like to do talking to AI. I like to talk to AI, okay? And with talking to AI, I can then build out days of information, okay? So if I talk to the AI a couple times a week in one singular project, then it remembers everything that I've said in the past. And then I can basically give it all the challenges I'm having and then have it give me opportunities to improve without the baggage I have, okay? The problem with humans is that we can look at someone else's life and we can immediately tell them what they should or shouldn't do, depending on their situation. That makes objective sense. But the human who we're telling, okay, they can't make sense of that because they have too much baggage, right? That's why we're better at solving other people's problems than solving our own problems, because we have baggage attached to it, okay? So when we talk to AI, it's non-biased. So it's very objective in terms of what it tries to get you to do. And a lot of times you can look at and find your own blind spots in your business. So what we do is an exercise called the 6 pillars, which is where we break down all the elements of the business, from marketing, sales, operations and team, fulfillment, finance, and mindset. And then we look at those areas of the business and we say, okay, what's the bottleneck? Talk to the AI about the bottleneck, and then have it give you answers and kind of guide you to where you need to be in the business. Now, the last thing on strategy is SOPs. Okay, so just building out standard operating procedures. I like to talk basically my process through, either on my phone or sometimes I'll record a Loom video. I'll talk the process through, and then I can get AI to build me a written SOP that follows that exact video. That way for my team, we have video training and then we have written training. So either one can be referenced. It's also very easy to update the written training because, again, as long as you update the video once a year using these models, it can create nice written SOPs for you as well, for those that like to actually read instead of listen or watch, okay? All right, my friends, that's all I had for you today. Number one, make sure you go and execute on all these ideas, okay? We shared a lot. This is just a surface level of AI, by the way. So make sure you go and execute. That's the only disservice you can provide us on this channel, is listening to all this stuff and then not going out and taking extreme action to get the outcome done, okay? Second thing, if you got value, we do grow organically. Share this video with somebody who needs to hear it. Send it to a colleague who might get value from it. We do appreciate you sharing the show because we grow organically. We don't run ads on here or anything, okay? We just try to bring you the most value. And if you get value, we ask that you share it forward to somebody who's also going to be able to take something away from this content, all right? Look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. We'll chat soon.